Hi everyone, Tahara Ezrahti here with Applied Intuition, and I'm a trained clairvoyant, and I also teach intuitive development classes. And today I'm here with Corinne Cevaer-Corey. She's a counseling astrologer, and we're about in the middle of November here, and we're going to talk about kind of the general vibe of what's going on. This is going to be a more just kind of a conversational podcast here, and hope that it's useful to you. Okay, so Corinne, welcome.
Thanks.
And I was telling you earlier that I've been teaching clairvoyant development classes for a long time, since 2000. And as I'm doing that, I have a certain amount of information that does evolve over time, but I also have to kind of adapt the classes to my students and what's going on. And that seemed really affected by the general astrology and kind of the vibe. And I was saying that, for example, going into 2012, people were really excited and able to take in a lot of information. And I actually kind of turned up the volume on my classes. And then things were kind of stabilized for a while. But then since the pandemic, that kind of threw everyone for a loop, and everything was shut down, and people, in my opinion, kind of contracted. It wasn't a time of expansion and growth. And people have started coming out of that contraction. But what I've noticed, especially this past year, and really, kind of the summer into now and in the fall, people have been tired, people have been overwhelmed, people have been like wanting more information, but kind of not being able to process it. And so I just kind of wanted to ask you about that, kind of what's going on now. And then for me, as I look forward to the future, like January and February, I see this kind of burst of energy where people are in a different mindset. They're forward facing and future looking. And it just seems like at least a portion of the population is going to be excited to take on new opportunities, learn new information, and kind of we're in a new day. So anyway, what do you have to say about that?
Right.
You have any
So
comments on that?
about the current situation and people being tired and overwhelmed and really going through a lot of healing because basically all the traumas from the past lives, childhood, family tree, where soul level, all of it is coming up to and manifesting in our lives like 2023, 2024. Things are happening that are triggering these archaic wounds that we have, and we are forced to address and heal our deepest fears. So a lot of us are feeling anxious and fearful, and we're just needing to move through it all. It's just a huge healing time. But at the astrological level, what the big one that would explain this is Pluto having gone this year in 2024. Well, in 2023, it was hovering toward the latter degrees of Capricorn. Then in 2024, January 20th, it went into Aquarius, but then it came back into Capricorn September 3rd of this year, and has been hovering at that 29th degree of Capricorn. It has a specific name, anaretic degree, which means critical degree. Any last degree of any sign of the zodiac, if you have an outer planet, those planets that move very slowly and that affect the collective, if you have any of them or several of them hovering around that last degree of the sign that they're in, it's a time of shift. It's a time of change of paradigm. And a lot of people who are wanting the old way to continue forward, the same way that they've known it to be, we are, I put myself in this group, in the group, all of us. We, if we put ourselves in resistance a little bit, then we're in trouble, because we have to just go with the flow and be in the moment and accept that we don't know what this future, imminent future looks like. But what we all feel is that we are at this edge, at the precipice of something completely new that's coming and emerging. And so Pluto is moving, it's been in the last degree of Capricorn, September 3rd to November 19th. So that is at the end of this week, it moves into Aquarius for the whole entire cycle of 245 years, you know, 200 in 243 years ish, it'll be back in Aquarius. But in our lifetime, we're never going to see Pluto in Aquarius again, and it's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years until 2044. So we are just entering this new age, but it's not just Pluto. The other two planets, Neptune and Uranus, are also getting really, really close to the end of their respective signs. And the good news for all of us is that they're sextiling and trining each other, creating this mini grand trine that we spoke about in the previous video that we did together. And so for the next 5 years, we have this formation in the sky that's going to be very supportive and nurturing. And the expressions of these archetypal energies is going to be uplifted. You know, they may Pluto and Uranus and Neptune may express themselves or resonate, or we will be in a higher frequency and resonance to resonate with them, you know, vibrate with them according to their higher manifestations. And so we've got this big protective divine force going on, but we are in a huge paradigm shifting era, which is a multi-year process. And so, yeah, it creates a lot of fear. And of course, the more we're tuned in, you know, the media, the mainstream media, the more fearful we become, because the mainstream media is not talking about any of that. And or maybe in scientific circles, or, you know, very expert level circles, they are definitely already seeing the shift, and they're aware of those new technologies that are going to emerge, and or they're working on them right now, and they will emerge very soon. And but right now we're just being kept kind of like, you know, in this cloche, I wanted to say in French. It's like a bell, you know, like we're not being told, you know, that no matter what, we are, regardless of political party, regardless of who the leaders in the world are. This is a world humanitarian evolution that we cannot escape. And so that's to answer your first, you know, part of the question. And we had a huge Saturn conjunct Pluto at 22 degrees of Capricorn happen early January 2020, which launched the whole breakdown for breakthrough, you know, and shift of paradigm. Then at the end of 2020, we had Saturn conjunct Jupiter at 0 Aquarius, and signaling, you know, the entering into the new age, you know, the era of Aquarius. And moving on, we've had many heavy duty cosmic events that have occurred. And this particular full moon that's coming at the end of the week, November 15th, it's a Taurus full moon, Sun in Scorpio opposite moon in Taurus, but it's conjunct Uranus, which is the Great Awakener, and the planet that symbolizes on its highest level. It's all about freedom, sovereignty, and you know, the betterment of the collective. But also we have the body series, the asteroid series. In Latin, I think it was Demeter, the goddess of abundance, agriculture, nourishment. That particular theme, myth of the mother Ceres who lost her daughter Persephone to the god of the underworld, Hades. That would be Pluto. And then negotiated with Jupiter, you know, the god at the top of Mount Olympus, to desperately try to get her daughter back. And so that's why we have, you know, 6 months of, she negotiated to have her daughter half the year, back to her half the year. So that's why the seasons, and we have the winter, because the goddess is crying for her daughter that she misses terribly. And then the spring comes because Persephone comes back to her mother, you know. And so that particular archetype, which is also about the abandonment trauma, the fear of separation, and because again, the daughter was, you know, violated and stolen from her mother and just brought into the underworld, where she ended up, you know, eating the pomegranate seed, and ended up, therefore, it's losing her innocence and her naivete and seeing the reality for what it is. Now, this is what we're living right now, those themes. And this particular series asteroid is conjunct this full moon at the end of the week. So people in astrology are expecting some kind of revelations or things to be brought to the light from the underworld, you know, that may shake up a lot of people. And we'll see what happens. Maybe nothing happens. Yeah.
So that's really interesting. And I also have been thinking about and looking at that we're kind of in the shadow of Mercury retrograde, and that we're going more into Mercury retrograde coming up soon. And to me, that kind of feels like a transition zone from what we've been in to what we're moving towards. And it gives people a chance to reorganize their energy, reorganize their thoughts, rethink, you know, kind of their suppositions about the world and the way things are. And it seems like a really, really critical
passage of time.
A juncture from the old to the new. And I also think it's interesting that's happening over the holidays, where, you know, there's a little pause in school, and some people have a little vacation from work, and people, you know, have a chance to get together with friends and family over the holidays and hear different points of view. Maybe people they haven't talked to in a long time, exchange holiday cards. And so I'm really hopeful about this Mercury retrograde. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for people to be open-minded, and for them to let go of the grasp of what they think that they know, and just be like, well, what's happening, you know?
We all have to stay open to having our belief systems being dismantled one idea after another, because we're really, really moving to very new, exciting times. But a lot of what we've been clinging to in terms of belief systems and the way we think things should be, that's all going to be falling apart. So we are right now in both a pre-Mars retrograde period and pre-Mercury retrograde period. So for people who want to have dates, the whole entire Mars retrograde story started October 6th and will go until May 2nd of 2025. But the Mars retrograde itself is from December 6th to February 23rd. So when you were saying earlier, well, let me talk about the Mercury, and then I'll go about the Mars going forward. So Mercury retrograde, the dates, the shadow part, you know, the whole entire pre-Mercury retrograde feel started already November 7th. The Mercury retrograde is November 25th. It turns until mid-December, December 15th. And then we'll be in the post-shadow of the retrograde until January 3rd. So, right, from like now till after the holidays have occurred, we are in this Mercury retrograde, re-examining, re-evaluating, reassessing, rethinking, being more open to having certain, you know, ways of life change and belief systems change. And then the Mars it's a longer period because Mars is slower than Mercury when it, moves in the sky. And it's going to go the Mars story is more complex this time around because it's retrograding in 2 signs, not just one. So it's currently in Leo, but it's going to retrograde back in Cancer. And then it'll, so the Mars is going to be, let's see, it retrograde, no, so October 6th, it entered the shadow period, November 4th, the day before the election. It was November 5th, right? The election?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it went from Cancer to Leo. It's retrograding in Leo, but it will move back into Cancer January 6th, which is a key date, remember? And February 23rd is when Mars goes station direct, but it will be in Cancer going station direct. And then finally, it enters from Cancer back to Leo and moving forward April 18th. But the shadow, the whole retrograde story ends May 2nd. And Mars, do you want me to explain a little bit about Mars?
Yeah, I think the whole, that's a little complicated for most people about the 2 signs, and I recommend people call you for a reading, especially if you have a lot of planets in Cancer or Leo and Mars might be affecting them. That would be a good thing to do. So let's not talk too much about that, but if you want to just briefly
in general,
tell us, about what we can expect with Mars and a Mars retrograde. I know we had talked earlier, and you had felt like it was a positive thing in that it's holding back some of this maybe out of control, explosive anger, energy. So
exactly. I attribute to Mars the fact that as far as the cosmos is concerned, the fact that this transition so far has been peaceful, and so different people from different political sides will have third dimension reasons for why it's peaceful. But I'm looking at the astrology, and so we are being helped by Mars. The worst manifestation of Mars can be like an explosive energy, right? It could be this warrior-like, fighting energy. And so the fact that it's being in this retrograde energy from October 6th all the way to May 2nd, to me, is a blessing, because the worst, most fighting, most aggressive, most impulsive, aspects of Mars, I'm looking at it like the horse is being held back, and so Mars, in general, represents outward going energy. It's action, but it's also reaction, right? So when we act before we think and react too fast, we can create problems in our personal lives or at on the world scene. So, but Mars is the planet that in our personal chart is about self-expression. It's about bold action. It's about pursuing our goals and ambitions, right? It's about taking risks. So when it's retrograde, there's more reflection before we just jump forward. The Mars retrograde period is about re-examining, reassessing, reevaluating, taking 2 steps back for a gigantic leap forward, which we will feel more coming, as you were psychically picking up. February 23rd is when Mars goes station direct. And then again, it won't be completely, fully onward, full force, because Mars then picks up momentum, right? And then finally it's at its full speed by May 2nd, which is why we call it the shadow period.
That's so interesting, because that is kind of what I see energetically. Like, we're in this finishing up, the slowness, the anaretic degree, and then very soon we're going to kind of pop out into a more in-between zone of the rethinking, reconnecting too. That's another word that comes up for me. Like during the holidays, there's been so much division and people not talking to other people and families breaking up and all this stuff, that this Mercury retrograde gives us a beautiful opportunity to reconnect, to ask questions, to become curious.
Yeah.
And that then when the holidays of, we're into January, things starting to move forward, and
But
this
they won't be going forward.
super fast.
Mercury will be forward, so that's a
Right.
good thing for January 20th for
Yeah.
in our nation for the inauguration 2025. Mercury will be forward, but Mars will still be retrograde. So I think that at the global level, at least in the United States, it's probably going to make this particular next administration, next government, a little bit, held back in certain most aggressive or assertive, or it won't go as fast as we hope. If we're hoping for certain things to happen, we'll have to be patient because the administration is going to need to just redo a lot, revamp a lot. We have to put in front of every word when we have a retrograde Mercury or Mars. And so another thing during the Mars retrograde is we're learning to stand our ground because Mars gives us that confidence, that assertion, right? That drive. Mars is the leader. It likes to initiate and show the way. But when retrograde, it's about thinking about how we could be more authentic, more real, and how can we be a better leader coming in from like examining our motivations for our creative expression, right? So we're like, Mars in Leo, for example, are we wanting to get accolades and recognized and seen instead of actually it be coming from the heart? Is it a heartfelt inspiration or heartfelt passion, or do we feel like we have this mission, So we reassess everything during the Mars retrograde so that when it goes direct, we're more prepared and we are more assured, confident in our shoes, to just be who we are with no apology and just, barge forward in our best expression, right? Let's see. For people, well, Mars, obviously, male energy, Venus, female energy. Okay, most people know that. And so, yeah, we did talk about, the warrior energy, but Mars is also, for ourselves, it's also our immune system, because the immune system is what fights whatever is disease and keeps us healthy. So Mars is blood and it's basically rules athletes, muscles and working out. And so a lot of people are going to maybe want to get healthier, and look at themselves and their lifestyles and reassess that aspect of it too. With Mars being in Cancer as well as Leo. Leo is more of the outward going, shining energy, creative, abundant. But the Mars in Cancer is more about home and family and land and territory and mother issues and mothering, and it's the great nurturer. A Cancer is ruled by Moon, and so the title that I gave myself for this was physical nourishment and emotional nurturing, right? For the Mars in Cancer, we're going to just reevaluate all of that. Like how can I change certain things to be healthier emotionally and healthier physically? And then with the Mars in Leo, it's going to be about finding a way to being more true to one's authentic self, from a humble place, and from that place, take leadership and shine with warmth and confidence, right? That's the Leo part, because Leo is ruled by Sun. And so we have both the male and the female. So in my opinion, this is about bringing the union of the yin and the yang, the male and the female, the two, the sun and the moon, the Mars and the Venus, bringing these energies together to then launch forward into this new era where the feminine and the masculine will be more balanced inside of ourselves as well as in society, I think.
I'm super excited because I just feel like we're on the cusp of something really great, and we're still in transition, and it's going to be, you know, into next spring before we really see what's going on. I want to share a dream that I had 2 nights ago that I think it feels like it's about kind of us going into this Pluto in Aquarius, this completely unknown zone, but it's kind of has a lot of energy. It moves fast. It's exciting. So my dream was I was in the ocean, by myself in the ocean, and there were these huge waves, like 20-foot huge waves. And a wave was coming at me, and I had to catch the wave because there was nothing else I could do. I was going to get clobbered if I didn't, but I didn't have a surfboard, nothing. All I had was this little towel. And so I just let the wave take me. And it was almost like if you're a magic carpet ride, you know, like a genie with the magic carpet, because the wave was so big that I was airborne inside of the tube of the wave. So for a while, I was floating. And
so
then
that's
I hit.
Airborne is Aquarius, which is an air sign. But the big wave and all that, that's Neptune.
Well,
and it's in Pisces right now, so
I was launched into the air with this wave, and then it was calm. It was calm in the middle of the wave, like in the middle of the eye of a tornado. How people talk about the calm. So for a second, it was very calm, and I'm like, whoa, I'm floating here. I'm not even touching the water because this wave is so big and the tube is so big. I'm in the middle of the tube, and then I kind of fell and hit the bottom of the wave and just had to keep riding the wave out. And then that happened 2 more times when the feeling of the whole thing was like, that was a ridiculous thing to happen. That was impossible. There's no way that I even thought that was possible, but I had no choice because the wave was coming, and I couldn't even allow myself to be scared because I just had to be in the moment and take the wave, and the impossible happened, and I survived, and it was exciting and thrilling and kind of a little scary in an exhilarating kind of way. But for me, it was about focus your attention, don't freak out, don't get really scared, just go with this huge, vast, fast rush of energy that's propelling us into the future, and not resist it. Just trust that it's not something you can't figure it out. It's going to be really different, and just trust that it's what is supposed to happen.
Right. So this is valid for all of us, and depending on where Pluto is in our personal chart natally, but as well as where it is transiting into early Aquarius in our natal chart, but also where that Mars is, where Cancer and Leo are in our chart. That's where we're doing a lot of reassessing and reevaluation, and learning to be our true self. I can't say it. Unapologetically, our authentic self. Those are the areas where we just are going to be strengthening to then say, you know what, this is who I am, and whether you like it or not, stand in our own truth. It's a time of renewal for all of us individually as well as at the collective level.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that people will feel really different as we move into the new year, especially once we get into February and March and April. So we're about out of time. And I really want to encourage people, if you're curious about more of this in your own chart, book a reading with Corinne. I'll put her contact information in the show notes of the video. And you're at Core Awakening. That's your website?
Yes, COR Awakening, all attached.
.com?
.com.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my website. And then on Instagram, I post like uplifting quotes. Facebook, same thing. It's at Core Awakening. That's the handle. Yeah. Okay. And then for you, I'll privately, I'll take a look at where the mini Grand Trine is located in your chart, because that dream is where you're getting supported by that Pluto. So let's see. Pluto sextiling Neptune, sextiling Uranus, trining Pluto. That mini grand trine that's there for all of us is between early degrees of Aquarius at the moment, late degrees of Pisces and late degrees of Taurus. But those two planets next year, they're going to be transitioning. So this year was a transition of last year, and this year was a transition of Pluto into the new sign. Next year and early 2026 until like April 2026, we're having the transitioning of Neptune and Uranus into the early degrees of the air and fire signs. So we're going from heavy earth and heavy, like physically heavy and burdensome and, you know, lethargic and stagnant earth and super emotional water. We're going into air and fire, which are going to be much lighter energies, and things are going to happen at a much faster pace. So when we have projects going on starting in 2025 and forward, finally we're going to be able to see these projects just take off, and you know, all of us reaping the reward of this hard labor, hard work that we've been putting in for the last few years.
Yeah, I feel that too. So, okay, it's been great to talk to you. And if anyone's interested in taking classes, I'm excited for my classes coming up this spring. I have a clairvoyant training that's an advanced class starting January 12th, and another beginning class starting February, middle of February sometime. And on my website's appliedintuition.org. So thank you so much, Corinne, and we'll do this again.
It was great to talk to you.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.